Hey everyone, and do I have a special treat for you all? Okay, so with the pretty good success of the Dark cartoon trilogy, I thought I'd lighten up the subject, but still tackle a number of dark tunes within the Angry Beavers, one of the funniest, most entertaining Nicktoons. I mean, they were so good, they got a second season. Then they had a year off and they came back with their biggest, the third season, and then we got their fourth and final season. But there was gonna be more. Their infamous final episode, Bye Bye Beavers, had audio released and storyboards released. But since it broke the rules of alluding to the fact the show would end, Nickelodeon nixed it. But the whole episode was an April Fool's joke. But we never got to see any more of Daggett and Norb. And then, they had some DVD releases, video releases. Then we got these awesome box sets. And now there's newer releases with like more stuff. But, these were the first full sets and they're awesome. Like they got different picture of them on each, and then got all the information and little pictures on the back, and then all the episodes. So yes, these sets are done by the same company that did our Real Monsters. And interesting fact, the voice of Daggett is the same as Zim. So Angry Beavers started in 97, finished in 2001, and Zim started in 2001. Is Dag secretly Zim in an alternative world? Because same like personality, expressions, and in Zim, they were gonna call his cruiser the Spoot cruiser, but it got changed to Voot because Spoot is so synonymous with Angry Beavers. But there's so much about this show, and there's even a show within the show, well, a couple actually. Now, Norb and Dag love B-grade horror films, and their favorite is Oxnard Montalvo. And throughout, they're always watching one of his films. And then in one of the greatest episodes ever, it's a 30-minute special, The Day the World Got Really Screwed Up. They go out trick-or-treating the night before, and then they come across Oxnard Montalvo's home, where an alien's crashed, and Dag and Norm's memories are bringing all the monsters to life because Oxnard has all the monsters from his films as statues in his home. So they all come to life and start terrorizing, and this is one of the dark episodes of Angry Beavers. The music is really haunting, the imagery, it's like, ooh, and some of the monsters literally are pretty freakifying. Like the concept of this episode would make for a great film. And so Dag confronts the crawling spleen, and it's crawling along, and it's got like all the tense music, and it's like, oh, it's gonna eat him, and then Dag turns around and it's like, buzz off, spootwad, and causes the spleen to crawl away, crying and all that. So they defeat the evil alien overlord, and they don't get the candy, because that's a little bit of a joke throughout. Like, they want the candy. And Also, speaking of the B-grade horror films, in Food of the Clods, probably the funniest, and it's essentially dark. Norm's up late, he's eating a whole heap of food, he's watching a whole lot of films, and then he sleepwalks and is all hypnotized, and he turns into characters or dresses up as characters from the movies and is pestering Dag, and Dag's like, "You sleepwalk," and Norm's like, "I don't sleepwalk," because he's got that real high, mighty, booming voice. And so Dag stays up. He eats a whole bunch of food, and then when he wakes up, Norm just appears out of nowhere dressed as a Viking woman from Venus. And he's like, "Arrgh!" and chases Dag throughout the whole house, trying to kill him with a makeshift axe. And then Dag tries to turn into a Viking woman, but he turns into a 70s dancer guy. So they're going back and forth, and then they end up eating up too much and feel sick at the end. Then you've got, which I find to be the darkest episode, you got Faking It. So Norm fakes a really rare sickness, and this pushes Dag over the edge to exhaustion. He's caring for his brother, and he slowly declines, and then he's sick, and Norm gets annoyed with him a bit, and then he starts going, "Oh, Dag, what have I done? I was faking it." And then Dag's like, "Ha! I was faking too." And then Norm's trying to get at Dag, and then Dag has to remind him, "Hey, you faked," and then they both get it at the end. So the pinnacle of this one is Dag's in bed and he's surrounded by candles and there's chanting. So it gets so deep to that point. It's like, oh gosh. And then it's all uplifting. And then the whole payoff at the end, they end up getting the real sickness. And of course you got Muscular Beaver, world's greatest superhero, whoosh, throughout. Now there's 5 main episodes of Muscular Beaver, and then there's a couple of other episodes that feature Dag and Norm dressing up. Like you got Mistaken Identity, which essentially is the 6th one, and then you got Gift Horse, which is the first appearance, and I think there's a couple more. There's one with the science guys, and they're in a few episodes throughout. They pop up, they always try to stop the beavers from something. Or in another reasonably dark episode, Spooky Spoots, the scientists try and capture all the ghosts. So, and that's got a real crazy evil thing at the end. And then you got the zombie episode, which is quite dark. So there's a few out there, and then there's some that aren't so good. But as for Muscular Beaver goes, like there's the 5 main ones and a few others which feature, so I count them as part of the series. So all up, I think there's roughly about 9. So 4 spin-offs somewhat, ones that reference, and then the 5 main ones. And so the scientists pop up in the second one trying to get the costumes, and then they're out a few other times. And in Box Top Beavers, Tobot appears, and then he comes back in Muscular Beaver 4. So they got so many connections throughout these great series. You know, like you can binge watch this on a weekend, or it was so good coming home after school knowing that Angry Beavers will be on. It's just a great show, and to have these and reminisce, and just, it's awesome. And another funny one is Dumb Waiters, where they get masks from the Oxnard Montalvo film, so they have to wait. They get tips throughout. It's got the snooty French maitre d', and every time he gets hit, he's like, "Oh, oh!" And turns out the masks just for your fingers. So they made all that money. They bought this cheap little box, and they can barely wear the masks, and the restaurants explode. So there's so many adventures, and then of course you got their friends, and Dag's either always embarrassing Norb, and most of the friends side with Norb. There's a couple where they side with Dag, and the brothers get into many different things. Norb ignores Dag one episode where he's trying to get all the different models this year's, next year's, last year's, and Dag's pretending to be at a party, and then one where they leave the dam, go somewhere else, and then they come back and their dad visits, and then their sisters visit, and then of course Stump, who later on Dag accepts is real, and so many weird things happen with Stump. Then you got the annoying Bing, who pops up here and there. So his episode, I think it was the Bing that never left, or the Bing that came to dinner. He's always ousted by the beavers, and then he comes to a conclusion, oh, you don't want me in this, and then they start regretting it. It's like, oh gosh, it's wow, so emotional. But yeah, they're just hilarious. They are so good. They'll make you laugh and just remember so much nostalgia. It's a great series, and I just want to cover that. So that's the Beavers. Dag and Norm. And one little thing, I'm always reminded about the Angry Beavers when I see Dumb and Dumber, because Lloyd and Harry have similar personalities to Dag and Norb. So Harry is Norb and Lloyd is Daggett. I don't know how that came to be, but I'm just always reminded. So if there was a full-on Angry Beavers episode, make it like an adventure like Dumb and Dumber. Like maybe it was a slight influence. I mean, there was the Dumb and Dumber cartoon, and yeah, just similar mannerisms and all that. But that's all for this one. It was a biggie. It was a doozy. And like always, I'll scare you later.